Wortella.
Yes.
Horton.
Yes.
Maureen.
Yes. Good.
Now, before we go any further, then, we're going to have to, like what you suggested, is to recommend two people that are going to be part of the interview process, correct? Okay. And
You could, because we're still under code enforcement, I think you can legally make a motion to do that because it's kind of all under code enforcement on the
Why
agenda.
didn't they?
you want three.
Yeah, we're not three people.
You
Because then
can,
you'd have
Oh,
a
yeah.
quorum.
Well,
yeah.
if we do it, yeah,
but you
I was
could
thinking
do
about-
two council members and
Yeah.
an administrator.
that's right. Tiebreaker.
Should everybody volunteer at
Want to
one?
be?
You want volunteers, is that what you said?
Yes. I'll volunteer.
I'll volunteer.
All right. Keep an eye.
And then the recommendations will be done.
Right, yeah.
Now, you're going to set up the date and time, Jackie?
Well, I think that the three of us should get together and listen to what the recommendation is from Mr. McAbee, and then come up with times when we can invite people to come in.
Good.
All right, there you go.
Okay, so this is a motion. Is it
To appoint Mr. McAbee and Mr.
That was
Maury
my
to
motion.
interview
that was it, to interview.
applicants.
And then make
To make a recommendation.
For the December 13th meeting.
Okay, that was moved by Wortella. Was there support for that?
Yes, of course.
Jackson.
Yes.
Yes.
Horton. Maureen.
Yes.
Wortella.
Yes. Okay, next on the agenda is street administrator. That was on the agenda from the November 8th meeting, and I would like to make a motion, the street administrator position to be shared with, and Mr. Maury, I want you to understand that you're valued. You're valued with your work that you've incorporated in the village. You're valued for what you've done. And it's not that, I don't think that Mr. McAbee could do any less of a job, but I will say this, that if you're in agreement to this, I would like to see that you and Mr. McAbee work together. I think it's important to have actually as many people as I think that should be educated and informed of the village works and department of public works. I think it's important for Mr. McAbee to also work along with you. You have a lot of insight, you have a lot of input. Last meeting on the 8th, it came across that it was not intended to do what happened, and I don't want you to feel this way, but I do think that you're an asset. I would like to make a motion that both you and Mr. McAbee be part of the street administrator position and work together. I don't think that it's unusual to have two people part of a position of that nature. I realize that changes are made, but I think that changes are made for the positive too. And if you're in agreement with it, I'd like to make a motion to have both you and Mr. McAbee be part of that street administrator position. Would you be willing?
Well, I'm probably gonna say yes for the people. Because I want the people to understand, I put a program together here. When I first got here, we were paying enormous money for repairs. The people I put together, I brought in a certified mechanic. He can work anywhere in the state on anything. And I told the board when I brought him in, and we tried him, he is my brother-in-law. And I get no monies out of that. But he worked my butt off me from time to time, but I helped him, because I don't like to leave him in the garage alone. And we did things together. The first job, our bid was 82 and 8,400. Danny come in and bid it for 52. When we got done, we did it for 4,000. We saved the village $4,200. And there's been other things. Danny's on call. I put a maintenance program together. In January, we go over the equipment, change all hoses, because I got caught once on the road. I couldn't get Danny because he has a job. It cost me $500 to get it fixed on the road. So that's when we started going through maintenance once a year. When you blow a 2,000-pound hose, you just don't go out and buy one at the hardware. I will work with Doug. I will teach Doug if Doug wants to work. Because there's things here, the most important thing you gotta watch here, folks, is that damn dam. I put it that way because the problem with it, you might get an inch of rain here, but if you get 3 inches in Ortonville, you better know it's coming. Because you gotta stay ahead of it. You get behind it, it ain't pretty. 2 years ago at Fun Days, I didn't look pretty up there, 2:30 in the morning in my underwear checking the water, but I was there 3 times in my boxer shorts. And it came up one time in 3 hours, 14 inches. And that's when I set a program up. That when I have to open the second gate, there's no child on that ball field from school. They have to stay up above. One call to the superintendent, they stay up there. Because if it lets go, there's 400 of them down there, you're gonna lose 399 of them.
You're gonna lose what? I didn't hear you.
I have a program. If I have to
I heard
open
it,
the
but what'd
second
you-
gate,
What'd you say at the end of it? That's the part I didn't.
well, if you had 400 kids down there and that thing blew out, you're gonna lose them all.
Okay.
The problem is, in the last 10 years, you dumped over 30 yards of concrete under that bridge, pumped it, or that dam, you pumped it under there. You put 22 yards under there, folks, there's a big hole. That'll fill this room twice. That's how big that hole is.
Why wasn't it made right to begin with?
Pardon me?
Why wasn't it done to begin with?
There's no way to know what's under there when there's water running through. The water was down, so
But
we
they
think,
rebuilt it not that many years ago.
the dam? No.
It was built in 1913.
They
Okay,
just did the surface?
Mr. Mayor.
I think
It's never been rebuilt completely.
Completely, that's where you're coming from, that's what I'm
The
saying.
hole was underneath, there's no way you know.
Okay,
You
so
can't
all they've
see.
done is fix the top.
We maintain it the best we
That's what I'm
can,
getting at.
the direction we get from the state.
I
Can I,
think
live
according to
right
the
there.
state, somebody has to be number 1 for DPW. It's, you know, so there can't be
I
a
thought you
I-
were
two-person
together
deal.
and work together, buddy.
Okay,
I understand.
so it's either gonna be Pete or
Just
Isn't that what they said?
Doug, you want to...
according to state law.
Your discussion.
Well, it would be a good idea because I hope to retire in 2 years.
Well, train me in 2 years. But I would prefer that you be number 1.
Thank you.
Hiring?
And it's a learning process. And the town values your service.
Thank you.
Hey, very good.
Board want to talk?
No, that's fine.
Okay, that's right, we're on the roll.
Yes.
Maureen,
Yes.
Worthella,
Yes,
Jackson,
Yes.
McAbey,
Yes.
okay. Item number 4 is Genesee County Road Commission, that's Doug McAfee.
Yeah, keeping in mind that we are going to have this study, there's almost two studies that need to go on at the same time. When we went out to and talked to people, there are a lot of concerns of different areas, but the DPW is coming up, and I think that we need to have input, and we need to defend, make changes, study, whatever you want to do. But the Genesee County Road Commission made an offer a while back, and we have a number of choices, and that's only one of the choices. I want to get that out on the table so that when we start this study, I don't want it to be a surprise. It wasn't a surprise when we were campaigning. I don't want it to be a surprise. It's to, at this time, just have a cooperative talk. There'd be, anything would have to come back here anyways. It's to make, it's a legal step that would allow us to have an ongoing conversation with them in public. It's that simple.
Doug, could you tell us the concerns that were brought up that would bring you to this
Right
point?
now, it's not.
That's a very good point, but I hesitate. I will tell you a couple, but with the study, and we're going to talk about, obviously we should have talked about the independent studies, like 4 and this one 5 maybe. We're kind of getting the cart ahead of the horse here, but I don't want to lead that. I want to have that study stay pretty neutral. I want everybody. I'm going to say right now, because we're not going to be able to go around, get involved, get interviewed. That's the only way that's going to work. But I talked to 2 people who work for other municipalities that do construction and that do snow removal. And I talked to 4 people who plow professionally. One does a couple municipalities. And all areas of the village. And I think that the concern is knowledge. They want to know what we're getting for 120 hours of work a week. And I think that's the way I'd like to leave it until the study gets out there. I don't want to lead.
I think you and I need to meet before we do this study, because there's hours are put down every week, how these people are paid, where they work, it's all in the office. And before we go to the road commission, I think you should table this and go to the next one and get the professional opinions for those people before we ever go there. Because once you get involved, I'm going to tell you something. When I took this job, I thought it was going to be a piece of cake. Well, I took it by the horns. And when we've had construction going on, I was there all day. And most of the time I put in 20 to 25, 30 hours a week. Now, you may not see me in and out of here, but I'm around. I think at 2 o'clock today, I called the boys and told them they had a pallet in the van, they had to get it out of there immediately. I check things daily. I drive through the round daily. But before we ever go to the road commission, I think you need to understand what we got. Because there's a lot of things that are being done that are broke down or being fixed daily that we don't know. And now I'm going to give you a slip to look at. These are our daily repairs on each and every road, what we go through every day. The first thing I told these guys when I took this job, I don't want to see any dead animal on the road. And they did a very good job, except once. I left the office and I called Ethan and told him there was a dead woodchuck on Erie Street Bridge. He says, "Damn it, I just came over there." And I says, "Yeah, but I just hit it."
What do we have with this GCR thing? It's going to table it until we get...
No, it's just,
I'm sorry.
Is a motion being made on this item, or you were just
We're just commenting right now. We made no proposal. Any other comments for you? And I would like to sit down with you and take a look at all that.
I would like to table this until we go over this and then bring it back at the next meeting. We've got 2 weeks, and if you want to do it then, do it. But right now, it needs to be tabled. Why go out there and spend all the time when you find out it might not be necessary?
Well, I don't really see too much problem with that. I think what I'm trying to say is I'm putting a lot of faith in this study. That's why we all need to make sure that everybody has their input. And I'll live or die by the study.
Okay, so,
If you understand what's going on here, it'll make it easier for you to get a better picture when you do your study. Let's put it that way. Because right now, and I have found out, and I've lived here longer than everybody in this village but 5, so I've been here too long. But God's keeping me around. But I found out there's a lot of things that I didn't know was happening daily that have to be fixed constantly.
so the motion is to table the item until the next meeting, or table until after the study, I think is what I've got 2 different.
Yeah, I think we've got 2 different things going here. Did you make a?
I made a motion until after you had your study, but at that time you have got your ears good and wet, up to your knees, and you know what's going on.
We have a motion on the floor.
Support.
Discussion? Okay. I don't see any problem with that. I think, I just want to clarify that the study will be going along kind of concurrently with that, and that the study would take the lead on that, on the discussion with the Genesee County Road Commission. Is that clear? I didn't comment?
Do you want a roll call vote, or are you ready?
Well, it's Mr. McAbee's proposal that he wanted to have that part of Mr. Jackson's independent study proposal in his bids. I think it would go hand in hand, actually, to have a proposal that could be incorporated, and it would help. And actually, it might even help save some money on the independent study part of it too. So the cost savings for us might be even helpful there. I can understand, Mr. Maury, what you're stating as far as the DPW, but if the independent study, if the study is done, it's going to be evaluating all aspects of the village of Goodrich.
No problem.
And with that, they're going to look at other avenues of all the work and all the jobs that pertain to the village of Goodrich. I think the Genesee County Road Commission, investigating or getting some information from them is a definite asset, and it would be information back to the residents so they can understand also. I don't think it's a hindrance, I don't think it's anything negative. I think it's also part of the information that would be accumulative, and it would be brought to the table. I don't think that I think not having the information is a detriment versus having information. And if proven, what you're stating is factual and what you're stating is what is going to be evaluated, then that's all we need. But I think if we can help this independent study save money for the taxpayers too, and have Genesee County Road Commission's proposal or what they suggest, that's just another tool. Discussion, Mr. Jackson.
Okay. I'd like to start it off by, first of all, somebody, I believe it was you, inquired about what the cost of the study might be. It's a very valid question, and we have a pretty good ballpark figure, but I think the first thing you really have to think about is the fact that when we talk about the 3 areas of our large costs with the village, which is debt service, the DPW department, and the salaries. And the cost of doing this study is peanuts compared to those things. I'm not going to get into all those figures now, but it's peanuts, believe me. And if if we can help reduce cost in those 3 areas, it'll be more, and as Doug said earlier, from that time forward, those dollar savings will always be there. It's not just one time. Basically, we've looked at several different companies. Well, we've looked at 3 different companies. The companies that I've looked at and met with.
We're still, Mr. Jackson, we're still on Genesee County Road Commission. We're still dealing with that.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we were in the,
I know, we're
Well,
on.
I think I confused you because we're combining, we're talking about the combining thing. And there's a motion on the floor, I believe,
To table.
to table, but
The Genesee County Road Commission item.
right.
That doesn't mean that information can't be gathered, because this is just saying that you're tabling it until after the professional study. Information can still be gathered.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's, your motion is simply to table this item until after the study. which sounds-
Well, not necessarily until after the study, but what I would like to do is to meet with Pete like he says, and then have we'll be ready for this study. We need to do our homework here, and we need to make some contact. Is that kind of what I hear? So, I guess my concern is we table it. I don't want the issue to go away. We're still going to be able to meet and talk about this and bring it back maybe for formal, okay. I don't really see why it's necessary myself. We can do this correctly. We can do this without a proposal. But I support that.
Okay, so
Are you confused?
it doesn't matter. You have a motion and you have support, and the motion just reads to table item until after study. That's the motion. So you have a motion and support. So now you just need to vote. You don't have to convince me. I just want your vote.
They asked for one more.
But yeah,
The word after, concur with, along with study? What's the correct word?
What I'm looking for is
I think after
nothing that
professional
you can
study.
go out and talk with the road commission, do anything, but we don't make any changes until after the study is
Absolutely,
done.
absolutely.
Mr. Maury, there isn't going to be anything done. The independent study proposals that are going to hopefully be brought to the December meeting, as Mr. Jackson is involved in that. My biggest thing is try to help out and save costs by getting some information from the Genesee County Road Commission, because they're looking at every aspect of the village of Goodrich. That was what I understood it. Now, if I misunderstood it, maybe I need to be.
I think that can be done with this wording.
Do you want to?
I think we're all in agreement, is what I'm trying to say.
Right, I think if you want to insert the word professional or independent, I think because you called it a professional study on the agenda, we can just insert the word professional or independent. So you've got independent on this one and just on this one. Okay. All right, well, yeah. Is
Same
it
thing.
okay to,
Yes, whatever it needs.
we will
to get
put
on.
independent, table item until after independent study, correct?
I'm still a growing boy.
And you have a motion and support. Would you like a roll call?
Go right ahead.
Okay. Ortella.
Yes.
Jackson.
yes.
Horton.
Yes.
Maury.
Yes.
McAbey.
Yes.
Okay. Number. We're on independent.
Now it's my turn. All right. I don't need to repeat what I said before, right? Okay, basically, the organizations, the businesses we looked at was Fromos, Pally and Baker, an old Flint firm that's been around for many, many years. Yo and Yo, which started in Saginaw and had offices here in the Flint area for quite a while, and Platt Moran, which is a national organization. Basically, what happened with Fromos, Pally and Baker, they took a long, hard look at it. I was hoping that they would consider trying to work with it, because I had a lot of respect for the gentleman that's the head of the firm. His name is Carol Baker, and I recommend to anybody that ever may have those needs, it's good company. But basically, he says, we're coming into tax season, that's our #1 priority, so they chose not to bid. Yo and Yo never responded, period. I've talked to 2 different people there. I guess they do a lot of audits, but actually do a study like this is not what they normally do. So we came up with Platt Moran as being the best organization. I think you 2 met with them once, and I met with them once, and because of that, we've kind of put together a timetable. The timetable basically is that at the next meeting, they're going to do a presentation to us. And if everything is copacetic at that presentation, and it meets with everybody's agreement, we will then go ahead with it. Now, I'm willing to answer any questions that anybody's got at this point.
Discussion.
Beg your pardon?
You made a motion.
I make a motion that we accept doing the study.
Well, the proposal's not here, but to do an independent study, I'll second it.
Well, I think we're not there yet, though. We've got, the presentation will come first. And if at that presentation, it makes for our approval, and then I think we would go for it. So I guess the motion would be just to have them come in and do the presentation at the next
I don't
meeting.
think we need a motion, I think you can just bring them in.
Okay, fine.
Bring it in. Put 'em